no complicated awakening cannot be adjusted. Why? Because all this is linked to the intelligence of prana. All we need to do is to just make little tweak here, little tweak there, introduce some discipline here temporarily, make that move, make that decision, adjustments, and in no time it begins to realign itself.
Maybe just a brief background. I had this awakening about 4.5 years ago. It's pretty explosive. I mean, it essentially turned my life upside down, or maybe right side up, yet to be determined, but it collapsed everything. And I did a little bit of research, but my brain was kind of off. I just decided, I did realize it was divine. I knew the concept of surrender, and I kind of took my own path and decided to give into it in solitude mainly. But I guess I'll skip the details of the early stages, but I've hit a point now where these, I guess, the kriyas we call, the breathing and everything, I'm just going to skip to the meat. I'm at a point where I guess I'm somewhat in control of it, but there's layers to it. And to be honest, I hadn't taken it as far as we did here from day one. I mean, from the first sitting, it had happened, but based on outside events that caused it. So, and I've been doing it daily for hours a day sometimes. So I guess my question is, or just to continue on the advice. I mean, how to best work with it, to continue to work with it. So one thing that I've noticed is there's layers that I can get to. So when I'm sitting listening to darshan, I don't have to do much, just a slight relaxation, and it gets moving. And then there's the other layer of relaxing a little deeper and the breathing. I think you called it Bhastrika breath. And then there's another layer where that's where I kind of hold back. Right? I feel like I can flop around like a fish if I really let it go. And that's painful. I feel like my spine just wants to snap at that point. So how would I move forward with that? I mean, this whole time, it's been healing me from day one. I know it's made huge progress. When I say the energy, I mean, I've been able to move my body in ways I probably haven't in years, but without even getting to this level of depth. So I was wondering if, you can kind of guide me further on that, how to move forward with that.
I think it'll be fair if this was like towards the end of the program. We're only coming to the halfway to the immersion, which will be tomorrow, I believe, right? Today is the full 4th day, right? So my feeling is best we just really, I'm saying for yourself, I just want you to simply drop all this, don't worry. It's like you're not leaving, aren't you? Are you leaving early? No. Okay, good. So there's no need to kind of like already give you this kind of like, like, okay, bon voyage, and by the way, do this and don't do this. Let's just be fully present to what is now, completely. And I mean this, like a genuine practice, sadhana, inquiry. What we do is also inquiry, but not in an inquiry in a way of the, applying this, let's say, methodology of who am I, but it's in different inquiry. Breath is an inquiry, it's a very subtle one. And do you understand why the breath is so important? It's a tantrika's ways of self-inquiry. So it's like breath, if observed attentively, has answers to everything, absolutely everything, because what breath is a somatic, physical manifestation of pranic currents, and prana is an expression of consciousness. For that reason, in Farsi, one word stands for both spirit and breath, ruh. So, in this inquiry, when done sincerely and fully, one day can become change of a lifetime. And there can be weeks, months, hopefully not years, but in certain cases, years of just seemingly no progress. See? I can attest to that there can be weeks, months of just doing it every day. And it's just become tedious. And, and then one day there's a major breakthrough, quantum leap. You see? So I'm going to give you instruction now on how to do, and you will have a breakthrough tomorrow, that quantum leap. And everything I said now is gone to waste. I feel ridiculous, like, gosh, downgraded. You can't even apply what I suggested to you. You see what I mean? It makes two of us. So, to save us both from falling of grace, I suggest we just stay present, and then this, like how to go about it, we'll do that closer to the end. And I hope you, because it's our first interaction, I don't want you to feel, you'll get used to it. I can be really, really, like, unbearable. I know it. I hate to be myself. Yeah, so, but at the same time, you will never meet a sweeter pie, So it's kind of like that, crusty on the outside. So I don't want to I don't want you to, but yeah, you're cool, you're good. So we're good.
We're good. Can I ask you one more question? I guess the stuff I was pondering before coming here, again, I don't even know if it's relevant anymore, but just doing it alone and then starting to listen to some of your talks. I've had no one to speak to this stuff about, and you mentioned a few times the different quality of risings, up improper channels, or a sudden rising without preparation and all that. For lack of a better word, is there a way to diagnose that, or does it, again, that's probably the wrong word, but is there a way to know?
Yes, of course, of course. Of course there's a way to know. And it's better if we're fully aware, because the way to know is how is it unfolding? How is it unfolding, you see? So does it feel like there is a gradual deepening? Yes, there are like peak states are always accompanied by valleys. So this is clear. And we become that balancing act. We need to learn at what point do we propitiate, at what point do we support this. Sometimes the support, well, frankly, at all times it should be, because physiology always lagging behind. In day and age we live in, it's for sure. In our day and age, why do we eat 3 times a day? I mean, look at what the guy is doing here, 3 times a day. What a palaver to serve us food. No? Just for it to look pretty and everything. Carrying everything, is arranging, it's like a freaking wedding there, down there. 3 times a day. Because we need to eat 3 times a day. Why? Was it always like that, you think? This is because of the proliferation of the cooking books? No. It's because we live in time when we have very little prana. Constantly need to replenish prana through food. The nutrient content on food is getting poorer and poorer. I'm not going to get there because it will keep us here for a while. And I don't want to do this. I don't want to spoil nice evening. But physiology always lagging behind anyway. Every leap of expansion we make, we need to pick up the body to get there, so to speak. Because the body is where consciousness will paradoxically, no matter how ridiculously non-dual it sounds, where consciousness will rest. So one way or another, it's impossible to live the glory of awakened life fully to what it represents, unless it is stabilized through this neurophysiology. This is where the whole purpose is. Otherwise, we might as well just do harakiri. No, I mean, seriously, if coming out of this body is the whole point, and then we get free, why to wait? Okay, I have family commitments and this and that, so it's a bummer, I have to wait another. It's like, this little one's till she's 16 and like constantly postponing, because you can't leap through the fontanel of the head. That's not where you leap. You exit through another completely nadi, and it's not an easy thing to do. It will take a lifetime to practice. And then by the time you learn how to leave the body, you might start enjoying it. So you might want to postpone that departure. So that's why I said harakiri, I know. But if you reflect on this, you might feel that it all makes sense. Body needs to be taken care of. And at other times, feeding also the subtler channels, subtler domain, So we avoid clinical state of affairs. We avoid seeing this in terms of athlete going to perform, And it's like it shouldn't become clinical, It's done for the love of it, for the love of it. Not because it's just. This is why I never got sorry folks, this is just been into Arnold Schwarzenegger and all that. To me, it was very repulsing. How can a grown-up man dedicate life to this? It's just beyond me. All these powdered special recipe shakes, and then into the gym, to the shake, to the gym, to the shake, to the gym, And then it's like, and then oil on this is the worst part. So, has to be oiled, but from the inside. We don't want any gloss on the body. Man should look like a man. Smell nice in some parts, but look like a man, right? Need to pump it up to be more manly. It shows that some kind of pathetic level there, some fear, some kind of compensating for something else, no doubt. But oiling on the inside is important. It's not a clinical affair. So as we look after the body, and so this awakening is seen not in terms of like just something happening to me and how am I doing with that, but constantly educating, constantly seeking knowledge, deeper understanding, which in turn, one way or another, translates into deeper acceptance, deeper surrendering, because this goes together. And there's no such thing as, cutting to the finishing line, because we're not running somewhere, we're not going somewhere. It's simply spoken in terms of maturing into that what we are, aging gracefully, like a mature wine. It has to breathe, it has to have depth, it has to have notes. It has to not reveal its taste right away. It should have so many layers that, like, it's become warm in the chest, in the tummy. It doesn't go in the legs right away. It actually lovely rises to the head and makes it very clear here. And opens up slightly the chest, and just like, that's how good wine behaves. A young wine is lively and just like cocky, it goes into the legs and makes the head heavy instead, So this is what really we want to make sure, so that even when you move that in a glass, it should look not like a water colored with purple watercolor, but oily. That means that there needs to be that what we take in, see? What we take in what form, what we nourish ourselves. We nourish the body, we take care of this so that all the humors of the body are upnourished. But what we nourish, that other part. But the diagnosis, it could be applied, that term. Yes, it could be. So one of the most obvious tests is that there is no kind of sense of stagnation sets in because of the loop. Year after year, the same, let's say, the same kind of manifestation, the same kind of dilemmas, the same kind of thing. Then where is the awakening? What is it for? What took place? Obviously, if the body starts to speak and send signals, then we need to listen to them. What is it speaks to us? And then it's easy to find out. But the way this goes in the modern day, it's adjustable. So no complicated awakening cannot be adjusted. Why? Because all this is linked to the intelligence of prana. All we need to do is to just make a little tweak here, little tweak there, introduce some discipline here temporarily, make that move, make that decision, adjustments. And in no time, it begins to realign itself. In some cases, attending this kind of workshops is a must, because that's where the real work is done in any case. This is where, in a way, we've started doing that because it was dubbed as a Red Cross battalion. Kind of like a Red Cross battalion. Whilst everyone is hooray, far forward, thrusting with the spiritual kind of, we're like this, mules and donkeys carrying this, and everything goes, because that's true, see? Clean-cut spiritual organizations, particularly if they're wanted to give everything unruffled, they send awakened people to psychiatric hospitals for a checkup. This is bizarre, plainly strange. So it's a legitimate question, and if you have something to share that makes you feel concerned, then you do bring it out. Any one of you do bring that out, right? You know that. So, but if this is just because you in advance worried, concerned, then we can also address that, you see? But self-diagnostics here, in terms of the value of your experience, the value, the quality of your presence, see? It's paradoxical, of course. In some cases, I had people who have serious issues on a physical level. The physiology have been assaulted because there's not enough ojas, maybe, also not necessarily young, and these people would, when asked, they would never trade that back to, no, this is I would never trade it for anything, because it's so precious, that experience of being taken over, that opening, that heart opening. And I also met people and have interacted with people early in the years when everything is fantastic, but people tell me, I want to go back to how it was, Is anything wrong? No, but I don't want it, because I have a job, I have this, then it's, you see kind of almost there's no justice on this plane of reality.
I guess, the reason it came up is because, or the reason it was on my mind is because, in the beginning, there was all kinds of activity and the good stuff. I had some bliss, also very painful stuff. My body was electric. But as it waned and, kind of settled down, physically, I feel like it didn't stagnate because it's always healing something constantly, click here, click there, movement, but it's just been going slow. So in my mind, it was well, part of it's my mind, because when it first happened, a couple of years, I'm going to be a guru, and that whole, your mind takes over. So, but also, just because all the, all this bliss stuff and the head stuff, it all just became purely physical. It's even the stuff in my head, it's all nerves just playing, and it's great. I know it's healing me. Each time I feel lighter. but it's all purely physical. You know, it's like this connection with the divine and stuff. It's not, at first it was there. I could look at the clouds and like tears welling, and that just kind of subsided. You know, it's got me thinking. So that's how this question arose in my head.
Mm-hmm. No, I understand. And I totally relate to that. So, to that second part is what I suggested earlier is still relevant. Let's just be fully present, okay? So not to make any conclusive remarks, let alone statements. That what you relate is very common, it's not uncommon. There is constant healing, indeed, constant. There is constantly, and in a way, this is better than more jolting, violent unfoldments, which could create a lot of strain on the physiology, and a lot of illness comes through the body in a very short period of time because it's part of it. All the karma begins to get squeezed out. All this, you know. So, one way or another, although in itself the process is both non-linear and yet sequential. Non-linear in what sense? Non-linear is in a way that awakening can move in a very rapid manner as long as the entrance to the Sushumna is opened. Then it's only amounts to the material, psychic material, that is what these psychic centers are known for. So if it carried through the way that it releases, let's say, one station at the time, then in a way it's better, because it kind of each stage reassures a more rooted, more stabilized, and more solid ground for it to grow and unfold further. But some awakenings are known for shooting up too fast, too violent, and then the same work is done upon return. And it's more demanding, paradoxically. You see? So there's like people open up very quickly, open up in higher domains, in higher realms. They have access, very quick access to the complete states of absorption, state of, beyond that what otherwise one would be envious to, that kind of, like access to that heaven. All the higher centers are opened. But there is a lot of stuff still needs to be done in the intermediate level, particularly in the level of what we spoke earlier today, here, where it will return. And when it returns after the repose, it's then suddenly encounters all that material, and the real havoc begins. It's when this, let's call them unusual, gifted awakenings. And if people do not have the luxury of living somewhere completely alone in Himalayas, or in Himalayas, actually, you would need to have a robust physiology to do that. So maybe somewhere in a temporal climate where they're not dependent and yet life provides, if they have to interact, that's where the rubber hits the road, and it's very painful. Because on one hand, one knows and experiences oneself as this all-encompassing freedom and this unraveled, but one cannot connect to another being. One cannot be here and now. One is totally either aloof or totally not connected, And then all this begins to play itself on a somatic level. You see? So this is why, in my experience, these more steady, progressive awakenings are more reliable than those who should. Those who should, they should be really, really clean of some of the nasty stuff that most of us carry, so that there's no major cleaning, clearing is required. So like in that kind of more language speaking, if there is great purity in the heart, right, then that translates throughout the entire neurophysiology. So then it will be very little needed. There'll be already a very strong witnessing of everything, and that will safeguard the process. All these so-called personal angels, personal gurus, personal guidance will be there aplenty. But if not, then the grandiosity will enter. All this and like all this will be swelled and just swelled. One will become big-headed. And then the process of return begins, as in the dynamics of that movement of Kundalini. And in the return, the encountering all this now suddenly is at the price. At the price. So this is why also, traditionally speaking, sadhana is comprised of 12 years. There's a reason for that. Again, it's like no way not to mention Ramana Maharshi, because Ramana Maharshi is like apostle of Neo-Advaita, and just like everyone who claims instantaneous realization or non-path, no need for meditate, have Ramana Maharshi as an example, but they somehow castrate the parts of the teachings where Ramana Maharshi very clearly spoke to that any decent awakening will have to have at least minimum, at the very minimum, 3 years in the rarest of examples, but actually 8 to 12 years. Actually, 8 to 12 years it takes to integrate, just to integrate. Integration is required so that then we kind of like truly enjoy the fruits of the sadhana. That's why sadhana is like that. Sadhana is something we lean on for the rest of our life. If our sadhana was strong and deep, rest of our life, things will come into our life. You don't know tomorrow what comes to you. Some kind of appointment, some kind of great relationship, some kind of something. It will all be as a challenge, but you are ready. You see? Fully ready. Otherwise, if it comes prematurely, all will be a mess. Complete and utter mess. So, everything subsides, and rightly so. For every peak, there is a valley, and during that valley, there's a deficiency. The higher the experience of bliss, the more nutrient power of our neurophysiology is exhausted to. Because it burns us like an oil in a lamp. It takes away all the ojas. You see? So this whole yogic thing, that whole connection, ojas, tejas, and prana is the most important thing to guard here. And the connection between them, just as in that example of the lamp and the flame and the oil, there has to be equal proportion of everything. We have a whole lamp full of oil, but there's not enough air. So the flame is weak, barely burning. If it's windy, it's blowing the flame is flickering, it's burning away itself very fast. So not enough oil. All the desire to burn, but what to burn? So all these factors are important, of course. So this is where we enter in the self-management of this at the internal level, at the level of the neurophysiology. But other than that, of course, every novelty of experience subsides, wanes down. But we go back to, again, what are we lean on? How present we are at each and every given moment. If you press me again, what will be this? What is it all about? How can it be culminated? How can we say, what is it like? How would it be in 20 years' time? Let's speculate. I want to know, I want to like age gracefully into that. All will be measured only by a degree of your presence. Because that's what awareness is. Awareness is equals light. Light equals presence. It's not how our life will unfold and what and how and this and that. No, it's simply how present we are. And the rest is down to what meant to play itself out. It all down to what is there accumulated by that prarabdha karma. We have no idea. It will have to play itself out. But when there is great presence, then everything is seen for what it is. Because everything is seen through that light which shines forth. See? So, other than that, everything wanes. So let's not lament, let's not feel, that everything, every novelty has, every experience has novelty. The first kiss will never be reproduced, the first kiss. The first kiss is like, maybe even more precious than, particularly if it's a sweetheart, and the one your heart is set on, maybe is more important than first sexual encounter. Because there is something profound, how the breath, two mouths meet. Am I losing you folks now? Is there something about it? The very first kiss, Never, how can, it's like almost like, damn it, In the snow, slowly, gently, cold but not too cold, and your cheeks are hot, and the lips of your loved one is, cherry like hot. And all these snowflakes melt on your face. This will never be repeated. So let's live well.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you.